you been looking for a podcast to help you transform your physical and mental? One that'll shoot you straight between the eyes with truth and no BS, helping you have the right mindset to accomplish things, the iron will and fortitude to follow through with what you say you're going to do. No excuses. Mark owns martial arts schools, and after 30 years, he has some real insight for real talk, real life, real conversations, motivational, fitness, self-defense, weight loss, live from the Great 1-8. This is Real Talk with Mark Cox.
All right. Good morning or good afternoon, I guess would be in your neck of the woods on the other side of the country in Florida, God's country. So that's for sure.
Good morning. Good to be here with you, Mark.
Yes. Looking forward to it. We kind of share the same place where we kind of got to meet. So I'm looking forward to having some interviews with you. I think some of the stuff you have is very intriguing that we get to talk about. So I'm looking forward to it. But let me give a little bio about what you sent me. And your name is Laura Templeton, correct? Make sure I spell and say all these names correctly. Sometimes I'm not real good at that. But here's what you wrote me. You wrote, I'm looking forward to meeting you and sharing time. I'm a speaker, best-selling author of the 30-Second Success, Ditch the Pitch and Start Connecting, client attraction specialist, certified USA archery instructor, a G-mom to 2.5 beautiful grandbabies, which means one's on the way probably, who have stolen my heart. I love helping people dig deep to find words that describe who they love to work with and how they serve. My mission is to help business owners, entrepreneurs, and professionals connect on a deep emotional level that takes the conversation to a heck yes before you finish talking. This is good, interesting bio that you sent me. So let's start right out of the gate with this archery thing that you do. How long you been doing that?
Oh my goodness, probably close to, about 21 years now.
Yeah. 21 years. So okay, so in archery, did you compete?
We've competed on a very basic level. We do it for fun. My husband and I, my daughter has been competed on a national, regional level. So it's been an interesting perspective from the parents' side of things, because my daughter's curiosity is what got us into archery when she was about 8 years old.
So on the archery thing, archery goes hand in hand with martial arts. I mean, it was one of the most, awesome weapons, especially for Japanese weapons, and that really long bow. So what kind of bow do you do? Are you compound bow? Are you long bow? What do you shoot?
So my preference is obviously compound bow, but we've also experienced using a recurve. I've taught recurve, I've taught compound. I've even played around with a crossbow a few times, but my preference really is compound.
And so is it all been sport? Are you a hunter by any chance?
I've been in the woods a few times. I will admit that. Grew up with a family of hunters, so it was an amazing experience to actually hunt archery. Never actually shot anything myself. The 2 times that I had deer within my sights, I was so excited about just seeing these big bucks with these massive racks that I was more interested in making sure that my husband saw it than I was actually lifting up my bow to shoot them. So I got in a little bit of trouble for that. Like, honey, shoot it first, then show it to me.
Well, they call it hunting for a reason, right? Because you go hunting doesn't mean you're going to get shooting. So right. That's for sure. So right. It's like they say, it's like going fishing, right? You might be going fishing doesn't mean you're catching. So exactly. There's, so there's that for sure. So I've always been intrigued by that, this sport, archery. So I've got to dabble in it myself. I've just always felt it's such a, an underused weapon, unless you're in the hunting stages, and something that teaches concentration and teaches hand-eye coordinations. And you can get better relatively pretty quick if you have just a few pointers on how to shoot a bow. And so I've always been intrigued by it. And I've always been intrigued by Japanese samurai that do super long bow. And some of these that still have that art, that really long bow that's way over their head that they shoot. I've just always liked this sport. It's always been fun. So that was an intriguing thing when I saw you talk about that. I said, it's something that I see on most authors and coaches anyway. They do something physical. All of them do. There's something else that they do, whether it's play guitar and play music, or they're artist, or they're martial artist, this kind of thing, or they have another sport amongst them. It's just kind of, I don't know. I think it's just kind of inbred in us, to be honest with you. But that's what I think anyway.
Well, I think there's such a benefit in having a sport that you actually love to participate in. For me, with archery, one of the biggest things that I have found, it's that moment in time where everything else just kind of fades away, right? It's I call it my Zen, because it's when you're focusing on something very intentional, and you can bring your mind into that relaxed state where it's like the only thing you're thinking about is the shot process and improving your shot from one shot to the next, right? You're not in competition on a regular basis. Like, even in competition, my goal was always to have a better score, and it always to improve my score. I was only ever in competition with myself, not the other people in the room. And I think that's when it becomes more fun, right? It becomes more engaging. It becomes, that where that expertise really comes in, where what are the little things you mentioned, the little things that you can tweak, just improve your shot each time, right?
Yes.
But sometimes people get locked into the critical stage. Sorry, my screen just went black. I'm like, okay, what's the technical issue here? But sometimes people get locked into that critical stage where they're in competition mode constantly, and they forget that it's just get back to the basics, right? Just stick with the basics, come back to the one shot after the next, and just improving on each shot makes a huge impact. And I think that's really kind of that lesson that we learn in life itself, right?
That's
It's
correct.
what are the little things that we can do to improve that get us closer to our goals, get us closer to where we want to be in life.
Right. It so correlates, even my whole podcast, Beyond the Mat, everything I've done on the mat, it correlates off the mat, on what I do on the mat correlates in life, even in jiu-jitsu class or whatever we're doing at that particular time. Really, there's not a lot on my mind when someone's trying to choke me to death, outside of not getting choked to death. So, the stresses of life isn't quite there on the mat when that's happening. So, I get that. And then you correlate those lessons to, life. It doesn't surprise me. None of that surprises me as coaches. I see it over and time again that, that's how they correlate their lessons right into their coaching. I mean, it's just hand in hand. It always has been.
Right. And that's one of the fun things. A lot of people have asked me why, they know that I shoot archery, and I've had a couple of different people recommend that I actually shoot archery in my speaking, right? Like, come out on stage and shoot archery. I'm like, I don't know how many venues are actually going to let me do that, because it's a weapon.
So it's one of those that would be so intriguing to see, though, right?
Right.
It's an eye catcher. It's the same thing. If I go on stage and I break bricks, it is an icebreaker. I mean, people are like, "What the heck is going on?"
Right.
And so
archery, I talk about hitting your target, right? You talk your target audience. What is your brand message, and how is it really connecting with the people that you're meant to serve? And that would be so much fun to do. I'm going to have to really figure out how to incorporate that and get people to say it's okay for me to shoot, because I got to.
Well, the age old thing is it's always better to ask forgiveness than permission. And so that's that's
show up with a target.
That's having a target up there, and even just a crossbow, just to boom, right? It's just, yes, that would be super intriguing. That would be super awesome, as a matter of fact. Yes, I would say Dave. His name's David Kamenchik. I've had him on my podcast. His podcast, he has a bat with him all the time, and so he swings a bat and he talks about it all the time. And then after it, he'll let people swing a bat so that and then he incorporates that So there's always something when speaking, and which will lead us right into what you talking about. So you said you're a speaker. Where do you speak the most? Where did you get into that venue of speaking?
What's interesting, most of my speaking has really been with organizations, right? Speaking to a lot of different organizations, nonprofits, and even some network marketing companies. And my background, my journey really came from the network marketing background, where I had learned a lot. I was engaged with that, a couple different organizations throughout about a 15-year period, and had really, really connected and understood the training side. Us people that are born to teach have a tendency to wind up on stage somehow, some way or shape or form. I was always teaching people within the organization, took a lot of that to heart. And I used to network a lot in person before everything happened with the pandemic and the lockdowns, was where I was networking in person a lot. And I would literally physically watch people fall apart when it was time to do their 30-second messages. And I started coaching people through that process because I had learned how, right? I had learned a simple methodology, a simple formula that really worked for me, and how to put it into practice. So I started teaching other people. Well, we know that in networking, people don't network in one place. They have a tendency to travel out and go elsewhere. And, they were networking elsewhere, and people were noticing the change in them, and who started asking, who's helping you with your message? So I started getting more requests to speak to other organizations. So a lot of it really started with a lot of networking organizations that saw that their members were struggling. Their members were struggling to communicate effectively in that 30-second window that we have at networking events. So then once, I really kind of stepped into speaking to other groups and being able to communicate well with those groups and sharing with them what it was that I was teaching, I started to get more requests elsewhere. I started speaking to other organizations as well. And even a couple of organizations in that corporate arena, where they understand the value of having your employees be able to talk about your organization, right? Because they have a referral program in place that helps their members and really helps to grow their business. And that was one of the biggest catalysts, was just getting that message out there and helping people. So from the stage perspective, it was a lot of networking organizations, and then it kind of rolled into corporate. And now I'm actually teaching in the college and career side of things. I've been approved to be I'm actually a speaker for Penn State University, teaching networking 101 and how to brand yourself and how to have those deep conversations that leads to more opportunities. So it's really interesting how things have transitioned over the years, in about a 9-year period since I launched 30-Second Success.
So you've been involved in network marketing, you said, is that correct?
Yes.
So yeah. I was, I did that for two. I did that quite often. As a matter of fact, there was a couple of companies I did very well in. And then my martial arts always kind of goes off to and then I get, my martial arts is what brings me into usually the top earners. And then I'll end up in their room and working them out and doing and things like that, and get to, and I got a lot of those nuggets from, I still have good friendships from my network marketing days.
Right.
And I enjoyed that a lot back in the day. Yeah. I never discount that at all. Yeah. I don't know if
those connections never go away, right? Because they're really about that. That's one thing that I tell people all the time. If you've never experienced network marketing, give it a try, because they teach relationship. Right? They teach how to connect. The better network marketing companies really understand how to educate their team members, how to connect, how to really build relationships. It's really relationship marketing, and you don't get that kind of an education from any place. Not as much. They really pour into their associates, and I've always benefited, and I will always be grateful for that experience.
I definitely, the training in network marketing has definitely, I'll tell you this, it's done two things. It has certainly teach you how to be okay with people telling you no. I can tell you that. That's for sure. You'll get some thick skin. I can tell you that.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is Ivy.
It's interesting that you brought that up, because one of the people that I absolutely love to hang out with, Andrea Waltz, I met her through one of the conferences. Andrea Waltz and Richard Fenton wrote the book, Go for No. Yes is the destination, no is how you get there. Right. So she was somebody that I hang out with her now. As a matter of fact, I think we're having lunch soon, because she's here in Florida as well. But that was, those people stay with you, right? The people in your network, the people that you've met throughout the years. And again, it's about relationship, and you get to hang out with some really cool people. And I think there's no barriers. One of the things that, that I discovered, from my corporate journey, that, there's the hierarchy, right? You're not necessarily hanging out with the guys in the boardroom and the CEO and stuff. Although I was able to do that, somehow I wound up breaking down those barriers when I was in corporate. So it was pretty enlightening when I went into network marketing. And now, I'm hanging out with all the guys, the top earners, because all they want to do is educate me on how to become one of them. Right. So that barrier was no longer there, which I absolutely loved about that network marketing side of things. And again, like you said, being able to hear no and not be offended by it. Right. So how do you get to a yes quicker?
Yes. And I remember my days of that, even as a coach now. And I tell even the ones that I coach on their martial arts schools on how to, even in customers, you either got to get a yes or a no. You can't say, to me, I tell them all the time, I said, maybe's a no. So you got to move on. Right. So that's just the way it is. And go find the ones that are like-minded, and they're out there. You just got to weed through it. So yes, network marketing days for me was phenomenal. I always liked the training. I always liked the competition of it, moving up the ranks and all that kind of stuff. So I did that for a while. It was it was a lot of fun. I don't know about you, but I get hit up on them all the time because of my circle of influence now. So, and I told them, I said, I'm going to give you a gift. I'm going to tell you no, because that way you don't have to keep on wondering if I'm going to be able to do it or not. And so I haven't really landed another one that I was really, really kind of looking to do. I use some products for quite a few of them though. There's some that I really like their products. I just didn't want to, go through the motions of going through the whole, you know what I'm talking about. Just, it's another business. And if you treat it like a business, you'll reciprocate the benefits of a business. So that's just one of those things. But that's awesome. It's great. I'm glad to hear that you had that. I think it really has network marketing always has a bad rap. I like what you called it. You called it more relationship. What'd you say it was? Say that again.
Relationship marketing.
That's what they should be rebranding it to, is right there. Is relation, and get the network marketing out of it. They'd probably get a lot more people looking at it, because as soon as you say network marketing, everybody's like, oh, it's a pyramid.
It's that. It's one of those.
That's right. You're right. It's not the cross. It's the pyramid. That's a pyramid. So that's for sure.
Yeah.
So, well, let's talk. So that's great that you get to go out there and speak and use that. So let's talk about the author of the 30-Second Success. So let's talk about your book. Let's get into that. That's an interesting title. It's interesting what you talk about. I like what it says right here. As a matter of fact, I think I use that in my title, right, where you say it takes a conversation to heck yes before finishing talking. So let's go about your book. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, thank you for that. My book launched in 2020, in January of 2020. So we were really in launch phase and it was really focusing on networking as a whole, right? We take you down the journey of understanding who your ideal client is, because if you don't understand your ideal client, and if you're avoiding the niche conversation with yourself, you're leaving money on the table. So it really talks about understanding who your ideal client is in order to create a 30-second message that resonates with the people in the room and gets them to lean in and want to know more, right? So your 30-second message really takes you through the whole formula that I teach. And what I teach in the book and what I teach from stage, what I teach in workshops is nothing more than something that I learned, was gifted to me from Brian Tracy. I learned it years ago from network marketing. And it's really a simple formula that helps people understand that there are key points that need to be included in your 30-second message that get people to really lean in and want to know more. So, hey, Matt, welcome aboard. Good to see you. Yeah. So, really helping people understand what that formula is, but then taking it to the next level, helping people understand the value of building a network, what there is, what everything is about networking, understanding how to build those relationships, and even going into the point of understanding how power partners can help you grow your business as well. So having those referable partnerships in your circle of influence that can help you elevate your business, and you can help elevate theirs as well. So it's really about the relationship of networking and growing your network, and how being intentional about that can make a huge impact on the growth of your business. So with 30-second success, that's the, 30-second success, ditch the pitch and start connecting. It's about getting beyond the fact that your 30-second message, it's not a pitch. It's an invitation for people to want to have a deeper conversation with you. Because we know that you have to build that relationship. You have to start to build that know, like, and trust factor in order for people to want to buy from you.
Yes. So in your book, are you breaking this down step by step? This is interesting talking about getting on, because my next evolution from my podcast is to coach others on how to have one, and not go through the headaches of what I did, the mistakes I made, and also how to interview and how to have, because everybody gets intimidated by these things, and I tell everybody, I said, you'll feel so comfortable. You don't even know people are listening to us when I'm talking with you guys, and how to make that, how to make it simple and stuff like that. So this is where I'm at right now. So I'm just launching with Emilio, as a matter of fact. It's beyond the podcast, instead of beyond the mat, so I can get you beyond your fears and stuff like that. And if you want to host because I think podcasting is one of those things, if you have the time and you want to, it's a free platform. I shouldn't say free. You can find free ways, but if you want it to be professional looking, there'll be a little bit of cost, but there's a way of making you the expert in the room. People want to get on your show, and you get to talk about what you do, and then you get to interview others, and then you get to, coexist together and bring a new platform out there that's branding you. And there's a lot of times that I do my own stuff. I'll have an hour of just me talking. And so this is where I'm at. So listening to you talking about 30 seconds and getting people that want to connect with you is interesting that you talk about that, because, first of all, when I coach others, I tell them quite often, you feel like you're the expert in the room, even though you haven't done anything yet, because you're kind of in the mix of it. And I said, people are not going to listen to anything you have to say, even if it's great, if you haven't achieved something. Go out and achieve, and then all of a sudden your circle of influence will start to grow, and then pretty soon people will be calling you instead of you calling them. And this is just how it kind of goes in the martial arts world anyway. That's how I coach them up. So do you see that same thing?
So I think the biggest thing is, when coaching people through a process, right? It's helping them understand, it's that aha moment where they're like, oh, okay. Because what I found when people were struggling to do their 30-second message, they were trying to fit everything that they do into their 30-second message. They thought of it more as a pitch as opposed to an invitation, right? We've all been taught that your pitch, right? It's you're making that sale, you're making that sale, you're making that sale, and that's what a pitch is about, right? So we have an opportunity to pitch someone, but the biggest thing is remember, when you're in a room full of people, so the 30-second message really is intended for when you're in a group setting, right? When we're on Zoom and everybody gets to do their 30-second message or 30-second commercial, again, you want people, you're not able to share everything that you do or the impact that you have like you would in a deeper conversation. So think of that 30-second message as an invitation, right? Hey, Jose, good to see you here. So it's really a really great opportunity to invite people into your circle, right? And then to take them through a process, help them understand what it is that you do, how you serve your audience. And it comes back to having a heart of service, right? So the education piece is there, but you can't always have that in 30 seconds, right? It's teaching people, that the process of coaching someone through how to get to that deeper conversation is very methodical, right? It's really getting them to the point of where they're like, okay, aha, having that aha moment. Oh, okay, I get what you do. right? And sometimes we muddy our message terribly, right? We try to stuff all this different thing in because we're trying to hit on one thing that might resonate with them.
It's interesting you say that because let's dive down the virtual coffee road, okay?
Okay.
Because
Okay.
people, let's dive into what you're talking about right here, because I know
Virtual
what you're
coffee. Let's put it this way: virtual coffee is very different than a discovery call.
That's correct.
There's that.
And can people understand that? That's the next thing, because virtual coffees drive me crazy, just so you know. Okay. It's to the point of, man, listen, I want to connect and just get to know each other. I don't want to have a sales pitch every single time I have one.
Right.
Correct. And I think that what you're talking about here, this 30-second and in this connection, do you feel like if I was going to be, this is my 30 seconds, right? I'm on Jose's show and he's giving me 30 seconds and I say, you know, what I love to do is martial arts. This is what I do. And I've impacted a lot of people in my life. And I've even got to give a black belt to Ronald Reagan, which was one of my highlights of me being able to do that, tie a black belt around the president of the United States was awesome. It was awesome. And where I'm at now is I still run my martial arts school, but I have this podcast that I like to do, and I like to interview top people. And what I'd like to do is get on a virtual coffee. It's not a virtual coffee where I'm trying to sell you something. I just want to know who you are and see how you can impact others. Now tell me, I get the other 30 seconds are, this is what I do. And everybody is a coach. Everybody's a coach. So how do you feel you're going to coach somebody for those 30 seconds in order to have a conversation that may or may not even go down the business road? Maybe you're just an awesome person that I got to know. And thank goodness, you know, there's plenty of them there. There's so many opportunities for you to have different groups. But, you know, you can't join every group. Something has to have a real gel to it. So tell me what you think about that.
So the idea behind virtual coffees is really the idea of getting to know the people in your network and being able to have those relationships, right? Building relationships. But what's the biggest catalyst for networking, right? It's knowing who to connect the people in your network with. So a lot of times when I'm coaching someone to understand the value of virtual conversations or virtual coffee, it's letting them really look at it from the perspective, you know, setting up that conversation from the very beginning is so important, right? So a lot of times what I do is, you know, they call it framing, you know, having that conversation, showing up for the conversation, making sure that you're showing up on time. Say, look, I love getting to know the people in my network. What I would love for you to do is share with me a little bit about you, who you help, and who you need to meet. Because when you can establish that that's the purpose of your 30-second message from the beginning, like, wow, they're going to make introductions for me.
Correct.
Right? This is not about me selling to them. This is about me telling them who I want to meet. Ooh, and I will even put that in an email when I'm reminding people this is what we're going to be meeting about. Right? You can even in your calendar set it up as questions. Like, here's what we're going to be talking about. Here's the framework. Set up the framework. Your virtual coffees are really about getting to know the people in your network and how you can help them.
Yes, this is so. I'm so glad we're hitting on this, because this is really important to me, because I have met some really awesome people. Like I'll tell you who comes to mind for me a lot is Patrick Rude, who's the IRS guy, and I've got to meet him on a more personal level where we were, you know, and we have some personal stories together. And I was able to bring him onto my network where he talked to everybody about how to set up their business right and give them some good advice as far as that goes. And it was just a really good connection that way. And I'm hoping that listening to maybe you guys that are on this podcast, you'll agree with it. I see Ivy definitely agrees. You know, she's talking about virtual coffees are not pitches or sales calls. Some people don't understand that. That is 100% true. Because I'd like to meet everybody on the call. And that's why I love doing my podcast. Because now once I meet you, we're a good fit, or you kind of out there in the same world that I'm at, I get to bring you on and I can talk about you. You know what I mean? I can highlight you. I can ask you the questions. And sometimes, you know, people have questions for you, and you have this hour now with me. And then now you're going to have this for a long time, and you can send this off to your friends and say, hey, I was on a podcast. I talked a little bit about my book. This is what she does. And then I get to talk about you a little bit and get to know you. and bring it out. So this is kind of how I've done things. But man, some of those calls have, oof, man. I've told Jose, I said, virtual coffee should be called virtual death sometimes is what it should be called. So,
and you know what, there's a good point to that, because a lot of people actually refuse even scheduling virtual coffees because they are so tired of being pitched.
mm-hmm.
Right? They're tired of showing up and people, right away, like, oh, I can help you. This is what I do. This is how, when you hire me. And yet there are other people that I know that are out there saying that every conversation that you have, you need to be pitching someone. That's how you're going to grow your business. And I don't necessarily agree with that, because I think sometimes we need to make sure that the person that we're having a conversation with is a good fit. Right? If they start talking about the fact that they struggle with their 30-second message and, oh my gosh, I need your help. Right?
Yes.
I love having that conversation. And yes, I'm open to having another deeper conversation about that. But tell me a little bit more about you and how I can help you. And if that means me serving you and helping you grow your network through improving your 30-second message, great. Let's have a second call. Like schedule the sales call separately, right? Let's learn a little bit more about how we can support one another. And sometimes it happens, right? I've had it happen where I've been on a virtual coffee with someone, and they share what they do, who they need to meet, and I share what I do and who I need to meet. And then next question before we get off, 30 minutes has gone by, and they're like, oh my gosh, I need to know how to work with you. This is awesome. I can't wait. Like, what do I need to do to work with you? I'm like, okay, let's schedule I do a 30-minute free coaching session just so people can get an experience of what it's like to work with me. And then we can move forward.
Yeah, that's perfect. I think that's really good, Laura. I'm glad we were able to hit on this. And I think that 30-second, you have quite of a niche in there that you talk about, because we only do have a small window to make an impression on everybody. And that's why sometimes if martial arts is already kind of one of those things, when you say when people hear that I own martial arts schools or, that kind of thing, it's intriguing to people to want to follow up and ask some questions about that. Now, if you put me up on stage and I smash about 10 or 15 bricks, you know what I mean? And I'm like, come on, you know what I mean? And all that is some icebreaker stuff that kind of puts me at a different level. It's one of those things. It's like shooting archery. I'm telling you right now that would be something that people talk about all the time. If you shot an apple,
I got to do that. I'm just going to have to start shooting on stage.
You got to put an apple on a fake head and pow and take it out. It would be so awesome. And so I think that's I think that this is really having a clear niche in a 30-second time frame. Here's the other thing. You tell me as a coach, especially 30 seconds. Let me tell you, over my past year, my growth in this is the reason I like podcasting is I can get to talk about somebody else and kind of highlight them. I had a major, if you read my book, I had a major event happen in a tournament, and it really turned my humility up, because I was a very cocky competitor, winner, the titles, that whole thing. And then something really tragic in my competition days that I was doing happened. Right. And it changed me. It changed me that day. And I've never been one that likes to talk about kind of my rank and stuff like that. Because when you start telling people like, oh, you're an 8th degree black belt, they're all like 8th degree, man. It sounds like, Hollywood. You know what I mean? They don't really understand 8th degree means I'm a lot older and I've been doing this for like 35 years. That's what 8th degree means. It doesn't mean I have some magic in my fingers and I can knock you out from across the room. So, it's all, I don't really talk about it that much. And I have some humility about myself. But I've noticed some young entrepreneurs, if you don't tell your story, and I say this all the time to everybody, help me tell my story, but have humility behind it. I don't want to get up there with this cocky attitude or what I've done in my competitions or anything of that sort, because those were so long ago. I just want to make sure that, and then that's something that's changed for me. I've let people know my successes at this point, because if I don't, other coaches are letting people know. And I'm not. So do you find that talking, I find this even in my own students. I do this all the time. I'll sit my students down and I said, tell me 3 things good about yourself right now. And it's a thought process. It's like, well, if I say, tell me 3 things bad about yourself, they'll nail them. Matter of fact, they'll say 5 things. Do you find that to be true in your coaching world? People have a hard time talking about themselves.
Yes, absolutely. And that's one of the biggest challenges that I find. I'm glad that you brought that up, because that's one of the biggest challenges that I find, especially with coaches. They don't see the significant change that they deliver for their audience, right? Or the people that they serve, right? So I talk a lot about coming from a heart of service, really understanding who you are and the impact that you have on other people's lives. Like in the formula that I teach people, it's, what's the pain or problem that your ideal client struggles with? And then what's the resolution? I don't talk about the solution. Like I don't talk about the how you solve their problem, but what's the resolution? How do you leave them feeling? How do they feel once they've worked with you, right? What's the impact you're having on other people's lives? And I will tell you, a lot of times people like have to stop in their tracks to really think about the impact that they're having on other people's lives, right? And I encourage them a lot of times, go back and listen, read your testimonials. What are people saying about you? What kind of impact, what kind of change are you having for someone? What are your strengths, right? What is it that you're really delivering for those clients? And let's focus on that, because that's something people really need and feel. I just was invited to be on Marcus Ogden's show, Get Authentic with Marcus. And one of the things that he talks about, I don't know if you've listened to his podcast, but he talks about what are the 3 things, right? That are, 3 things that are really speak to who you are, right? And it was so funny because the exact 3 things that came to my mind when I was listening to his first podcast that he did, and it's really about his life experience. And the 3 things that he said were the 3 things that were in my head about myself. Right. Speaking, communications, and helping people. Those are my top 3 qualities, right? Those are the things that really speak to who I am. And it was amazing that when I said that in my head, he said the exact same thing. I was like, oh my gosh, like we're that. So, but the power behind understanding who you are and the life-changing work that you do changes everything, right? It really comes down to, it really starts to change how you're speaking about your work, how you're communicating. I had a moment, just, you're talking about having that moment when like that aha moment in your life. We were recording my speaker reel recently, actually a couple months ago in New Jersey at Heroic Public Speaking, where I've done a lot of training. And we were doing my speaker reel. And at one point in time, I like kind of like stepped in and I'm like, I started crying on stage because I realized the impact that the intention, the impact that I want to have on the world goes so much deeper than what I had ever imagined it was. Right? Helping people understand that we are inherently designed to love and serve one another and come from a place of compassion. And how do we do that? And how do we weave that into every part of our fiber, every part of our being? How do we make that adjustment to what we're communicating with the world? And how do we get people to understand that?
That's powerful. Really good. Really good. I think that when you sit back and you kind of have to analyze yourself for a second, I think we really know what our strengths are. For some reason, we can't like verbalize it. I do this all the time, man. And I'm one of those introvert outroverts guys. You know what I mean? You get me on the mat.
They call that
you get me
ambivert.
Is that what
it's called an ambivert? There's a word for that. It's called an ambivert.
I see. I didn't
you
know.
Like me. I'm the same
way. If I can get you put me out in front of class and I'm all about it. You put me on that stage, I'm all about it. But after the after party, I'm all about 1 or 2 people. I'm good with it. I don't need.
Yeah. Well, that's actually something that I don't know if you've heard this before, but one of the things that I've learned, in the past few years, 90% of speakers, high-level speakers, keynote speakers are introverts. we get jazzed and energized just waiting to get on stage. Like, man, you're like, you can feel it, right? You're stoked. You can't wait to get up there. You can't wait to share. Can't wait to get in front of a class. Can't wait to teach. And yet, as soon as it's over, it's like, okay, now, I just need to just hide me behind a curtain because I'm done.
That's isn't it? So yes, I find that. So the ones that are super outgoing,
yes.
I'm that, the one they talk about, you got to be careful of the quiet guy in the room.
Yeah.
That's me. I'm the quiet guy. I watch every single thing that people do, and I'm super quiet. It could be have those a little bit of cop tendencies behind me, but it's from back in the day. But that's just that's who I am. So let me ask you this question. Let's talk about your speaker stuff. Interesting that you just talked about that. So you say that you went and at a speaker, did you go to a speaker type academy, or what was this a class that you took in New Jersey? Tell me about that. What was that?
I did. I've actually gone. Oops, sorry about that.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Didn't mean to cut you off there, Mark. Got all excited about that question. So thank you. I went to an organization called Heroic Public Speaking. Michael Port and Amy Port have a training that they do for people who want to speak from stage and have a greater impact. They teach from the perspective of your speech being a performance, whether, you're standing in front of if you're delivering a speech for your board, whether you're doing a TEDx, whatever kind of speech that you're doing, whether you just want to become a more effective speaker. But they talk about it from the performance piece. They teach you how to write your speech, whatever it is that you're looking to do. They teach you all the components. As a matter of fact, Michael's written a couple of books, Steal the Show, Book Yourself Solid, and The Referable Speaker, or The Referable Speech. I forget which one that is. But so I've known Michael for years from Book Yourself Solid. I've followed his work. And when he and Amy launched Heroic Public Speaking, I was really impressed because they invite people in. It's like invitation only, or you have to be recommended to them. And a friend of mine had recommended me because they knew that I really wanted to have a higher level of speaking opportunities ahead of me. And it was just an amazing, life-changing experience. They coach you through how to perform on stage, blocking and staging. Both of them are trained in performance, University of NYU. I think they both went to NYU. And they have the real performance background. As a matter of fact, Michael has done a lot of acting. So there's that performance piece that, how sometimes you give a speech and when you're done, you're just totally wiped out. You're exhausted. They even kind of coach you through how to prepare so that you're bringing the energy and you're not like lagging by the end of a 60-minute talk. Oh my gosh, that will like kill me, right? I'm good for about 45. And then I start to like, okay, what am I going to talk about next? So it's pretty intense work that they do, but it's so worth the investment. It really is. But it made me realize that I'm a much better performer than I had ever believed that I was, because they saw something in me that it just brought me to a whole nother level in the work that I did with them.
Ivy's asking, what and where is a coaching program in New Jersey?
It is called Heroic Public Speaking. And if you want, I can connect you with the folks there. So Heroic Public Speaking, Amy and Michael Port are the owners.
Interesting, because this is the road that naturally that I'm on next. And I've done speaking ever, because I travel and I have other black belts, and they have we have big black belt tests, and I do my speaking, and I've done some of these competitions, and I'm super competitive, man. You know what I mean? I didn't lose that's for sure. And then, I'm in these top 3. I've never even done it before. So I'm like, well, I'm just going to do these and see how I do out there. You know what I mean? I'm going to talk about martial arts. Everybody likes martial arts. And I'm going to talk about, what I've done. And so I go out and do it. And I've always been in the top 3, but never won. So, it just pisses me off. Right. I'm like, I'm just like, I am so sick and tired of being the second and third loser. So I said, I need to figure this out. Now I went to Daniel Gomez's speaking thing, and now I look back at that reel now and I hate it.
Mm-hmm.
because I left there and I said, I need to find something. So I went and found Toastmasters, believe it or not. Somebody suggested, hey, go do Toastmasters because you can end up, speaking quite often. And so I did this in this short amount of time. Of course, now that, they just had new president, they vote me the president because I speak every week. It was amazing to me that people go on Toastmasters. I say to the group every time, you guys come to Toastmasters, learn how to speak. And then all you guys are always scared to get up and speak.
Right.
What are you doing? Okay. It's just, I said, you're in a safe place, man. We're here to, encourage you. When we evaluate you, we'll encourage you and we'll give you a couple pointers on what to fix. But I'm telling you, they've made a huge difference on how to prepare a speech. And I don't know how are you, Lord? Do you prepare a speech for yourself and do you have notes or are you on the cuff? Because usually I'm on the cuff and I can speak off the cuff pretty well. But when I do organize my thoughts a little bit more, the speech is definitely more impactful. So which ones where are you at in that?
Well, the whole premise is I've been trained to have what we call a referable speech, right? But I tweak it, right? It's the framework for the speech that I deliver on a regular basis. And here's the idea. The premise behind having a referable speech is that people will come up if you deliver a speech that's really impactful, delivers really great points, and you have then you're encouraging people to come up from the side of the stage and say, hey, can you give that same speech to my organization, right? Mm-hmm. But if I'm giving this off the cuff and I don't remember what I just said, now I got a problem because these people want the same speech somewhere else, right? So the impact that you're having, and you want to, just like your 30-second message, you want to get to be known for what you are known for, right? Being able to show up, not just as the guy who breaks bricks on stage, but what are the key points from your talk, right? And you can customize certain sections of your speech for the audience that you are in front of, but the foundation of your speech should be consistent so that it can be considered a referable speech. Now, you could have 2 or 3 different referable speeches. I have a really great friend, me, James, who has 3 different speeches based on her 3 books. And if you book her to do the speech on, her book about persistence, and being, confident, that's the speech you're going to get, right? She has the framework all built in. She's pretty. I think she's been on the board of the National Speakers Association. She's gone through heroic public speaking, so she really understands how important it is for people to, and you get rebooked for those speeches too, because people know that you're going to deliver. It's going to be a great speech. It is going to be consistent.
I think what you just spoke about, see, that's something just new to me right now that you just spoke about. That what you talked about right there just spoke to me really, really well. Because I do a lot of off the cuff, and when you say that, you're not even going to remember, because they'll come and remember, and I'm like, I don't know, what did I tell you? What story? Right. What story? Which one? And then okay, what was the point I said on that? And so I've never thought about having these speeches that are, hey, I want that to this group. This is the first time I've kind of heard that, which I feel is that's pretty powerful to think about. Yeah. Because
it's nothing that I've ever taught. It's really what I've learned from being engaged with heroic public speaking. That referable speaker is one of Michael's books. So I learned that, and when I learned it, it was like that made such an impact on me. And yet it's what I teach people to do with their 30-second message, right? Have a message that you can deliver on a regular basis so it really speaks to your audience. They know what you do so that they can refer you. So it's the same thing that I teach my audience. And yet I had to learn it from someone else about my speaking.
Yes, that's such powerful points right there. I want to take that, a referable speaker. As a matter of fact, I'm speaking again Thursday at my Toastmasters. I think I'm going to, they have something I have an elective to do. I did storytelling last time. And it was pretty powerful. As a matter of fact, I kind of wrote that speech this time because I wanted the impact. What I spoke about is my brother is a CEO of an organization called Zoe, which deals with human trafficking. My brother's a pastor, but he's been a cop now for 29 years. And so on this last Thursday, I did a storytelling on him because he served warrants in the morning on a predator. But their children, he knew that the children were there. So these organizations, Zoe, that he has certain women that have been trafficked that go in and take the children so they don't have to see what's happening to their father, right? And then so they have these advocates. And so I tell the story of how my brother is there with his team at 3:00 in the morning, and they're going to take down a child predator. And then afterwards, he has breakfast with my folks, my folks are celebrate their birthday in the same month, and they're at breakfast together. And Dave goes, I got to go to the park. I have been talking to somebody that thinks I'm a 12-year-old girl that's meeting me at a park today. This is right here in my valley. This happened on that day, last Thursday, this is what my brother did. And my brother, of course, went to the park, and then he arrested the one that thought he was a 12-year-old girl.
Wow.
And so this was the most impactful speech that I did for my Toastmasters. I mean, I could tell that it got to people, it spoke to them. And then the real thing, the breakdown of the speech was storytelling, how to tell a story, and then the points from it. And of course, the points being, hey, this is real, this is happening. And if you have children, self-defense is one thing that they need to have. Alertness is what they have to have, and they can't be like we were back in my day, where you can be out till the lights come on and then you come home. Those days are over, and you can't trust. Like, and I used to do self-defense 10 years ago and say, hey, you can go trust a female to go find a woman. You cannot do that anymore because the females are just as prevalent as those others. Sometimes I tell them, you need to find a big burly biker. That's what you need to find, because those boys, those Hell's Angels, are going to take you home. Yes. And who's ever bothering you is going to stop. I can guarantee it. Yes. So and so having that, thinking about that right now, when you said that, that is something I think I will keep, because the story is such a traumatic story in a right setting, that that was one of my most impactful ones I've ever done on Toastmasters. So I want to thank you for that. I've never even heard about a referable speech. So simple word. And why wouldn't it be? Because this is me. I'm kind of all over this is how I teach. I'm all over the place, but I have a certain plan in action, and I adhere to that. But how I deliver it might be different on the mat. So I want to thank you for that. I think that's a super impactful thing, and I think that's going to be impactful for anybody else that's listening. I know Ivy agrees with that. She had just said something about it. What she's right here. Oh yes. Well, yes, it does kind of coincide with the movie, right? Of Freedom, for sure. Sounds of Freedom. That movie just was heart wrenching. Yeah. 5 minutes into the movie, I wanted to kill everybody on the screen. Yeah. I was just like, these freaking dirtbags, scumbags, but. Yeah. So that was really good. So listen, so we're kind of winding down. I want to ask you one more thing on when somebody wants to approach you. I want to highlight you. I'm not talking about my story or my speech, but just that I want to thank you for making that thought process in my head. But if somebody's kind of reach out for you, Laura, well, first of all, where they can find you. And what you really do, because in here it talks about, I like what you say here. It says, ditch the pitch, start connecting, a client attraction specialist. I think that's an interesting take on a coach. Why don't you go ahead and take these last few minutes?
So thank you so much for that, Mark. I really appreciate, first of all, I really appreciate you having me on Beyond the Mat. I love what you're sharing. I think it's a great opportunity to just highlight people in your network, and it's beautiful. So thank you for that. I really appreciate it. And the work that you're doing at Toastmasters, amazing, right?
Yes, it's so fun.
That's a very impactful journey that you stepped into, my friend. So I'm excited for you for that. So 30 Second Success, easiest way to find me is 30secondsuccess.com. That's my website. And I am branded, because I'm all about branding, 30 Second Success on every single one of the social media platforms that I'm on, whether it's LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook. It's 30 Second Success. And it's just the way you see it on the screen here, the number 30, and then spell out the word second and success. So that's the easiest way to connect with me. My book is available on Amazon. I actually am a contributor to Your First Year, What I Wish I Had Known, which is an anthology. 22 women came together and wrote that book. And it's really about inspiring women in their first year of business, of things that, you know, you might want to consider just kind of working through, and feel like you're not alone if you actually are going through it. So that's a great book there. But you know, the whole idea behind 30 Second Success, and the reason why I call myself Chief Instigator, is I love asking questions, right? I'm all about having conversations and inspiring people. It's also an homage to my father. He was a great conversationalist. And I used to think that my dad had friends everywhere we went. I mean, to the point that I would ask him, Dad, how did your friends know to show up at Disney World when we were going to be here? You know, so it's not like we took everybody on vacation. He just made friends everywhere. So I was exposed to him, you know, his ability to have conversations no matter where we went, with different people from all walks of life. And, you know, so I was very, very humbled by that. So Chief Instigator, it's really about teaching people how to have those deeper conversations. But more importantly, the piece about client attraction specialist came from the idea and the perspective that your 30-second message is really about attracting the clients you want to work with, right? It's really about attracting the people to your business that you're meant to serve. It's not that you're meant to serve everyone, right? There are certain people that you absolutely love to work with, that light you up, get you excited to get out of bed, move your business forward. And how do you attract them to your business? When you get really specific about what you are sharing, what you're putting out into the world, that's when things start to happen. So that's why I talk about being a client attraction specialist. I teach you how to have those deep conversations that attract the right people to you, how to create that brand communications, and even how to use ChatGPT to really refine your brand communications so that you are attracting the right clients, even how understanding how to attract the clients at a much higher level, the people that you want to work with, right? The people that are wanting to give you their money in order for you to make a transformation in their lives, because they know that you can help them, and how to communicate that well. So that's what I love to focus on when it comes to client attraction. And it just makes all the difference in the world when you're getting up and you're sharing the right message that is connecting with the people that you're meant to serve. So that's what I'm all about.
Super powerful. I'm glad that you brought the Chat GPT up. You know, that has been a bit of a game changer for me, even in writing speeches. I have a good formulation of my thoughts, right? And I'll ask Chat GPT, okay, this is my thought here, thought here, thought here. How can I help with storytelling of this? As a matter of fact, I use Chat GPT to help me tell that story. Mm-hmm. And I said, here's the story. Outline it for me so I have points. And then it took my story, you know, of course, gave it a little bit of flair, and then it spit it out. And I was like, wow, this is really good. This is what I was thinking, but I couldn't put the thought process in. I knew what my thoughts were. And so I'm glad you brought up Chat GPT. Matter of fact, Chat GPT gave me suggestions for your title. I use it for titles now every time. So I put your bio into Chat GPT. I made it first person. And then I said, give me 5 titles. And then I choose the one that said heck yes in it. I said, that's the one that caught me. Yeah. And I found out even in podcasting, right? And I tell everybody, I said, you know, titles, you know, I used to just have, if you look back and it says interview with so-and-so. So there's no pizzazz to it, right, at all. And it's not capturing. And ever since I started using more Chat GPT, and I put everybody's bio in Chat GPT and said, I need a title for this person. Help me with titles that are intriguing. And ever since that, the engagement of my podcast has skyrocketed. Yes. Isn't that weird? And so, you know, even in my coaching of podcasts, and I tell people this, I said, listen, you don't have to be the brainiac. I said, Brainiacs has made Chat GPT for us to become the brains in the room. And not that you just, not want to have your own flair in it, but you got, you need to make sure that you have it. So I'm glad you brought that Chat GPT up. So, and I want to encourage my audience out there, because we've had a pretty consistent audience throughout this whole thing. And Ivy, I always appreciate Ivy. She's very engaging. She's good. Have you ever contacted with her? Or Ivy, you might want to contact Laura too. You can get, what you're looking for in New Jersey. She's a champion in her own mind, in her own right, in her own mind. I didn't mean it like that, Ivy. What the heck is wrong with me? I said in her own right, not in her own mind. But hey, you know what? She's a champion in her own mind too. That's why she is what she is. She's a beast too of an athlete. She's awesome. So it's fun to watch her do her chats while she's exercising. So I want to thank all you guys. And if you guys are looking listen, I encourage you guys to go or reach out to Laura. If she's given 30 minutes, like she said, I would take the 30 minutes and see if there's something that, if you are an entrepreneur out there or whatever you're looking for in your space, author or whatever. And if you're an author, naturally you're almost a speaker. It's hard to, you're going to write something and never talk about it. It doesn't make any sense. So if you need that and you need these 30 seconds, and I encourage you to go look her up, because 30 seconds is not when you're talking, it seems like an eternity, just so you know, but 30 seconds isn't that long. By the time you get through all your ands, uhs, and buts and ahs, you're whittled down to 20 seconds, and then you might not get your message across. So I encourage you to go reach out to her through the podcast. I do everything audio also, just so you know, Laura. So when we're done here today, as a matter of fact, I've started something new for my clients, and I haven't charged for it yet, but it's an AI that I have using. So I paid for it. I said, I want to see what this is like. So I used it last time with Mike, my very last one. So you'll get it today, and I'm going to send you the clips. So what my AI is going to do now is going to take our show, I upload our show, and then it's going to take from 100% down to 70% on what clips are the most impactful. And they come in like 30, 40-second clips of you talking or I'm talking, one of the two. And so I will send you the most powerful clips that you can have for your branding out there. So this AI is really quite awesome at what it does. It takes it, I upload my video to it, and then it will take certain clips of highlights, and you can put it on your stories or whatever. So I'll be sending that to you today, because I'm still kind of playing around with it. You're my second person that's getting to use it. And
awesome, thank you.
So I've really enjoyed this part of it and doing it. So I want to thank you for that. And so there'll be an audio podcast on there. You'll be on there. What I think I'd like you to do, if you have a minute, make sure that I have all your contact information that you want on my website for the audio website. That way people can just click it and go, and they can go to you right then and there. Does that sound good?
Yeah, I could do that. Do you want me to email that to you or drop it into the chat?
Email it to me, because I saw, that's the other thing I want to talk to you about. I thought this was so professional, just so you know. I emailed you the other day, and your email got back to me. It says, please know that your message is important to me. I'm currently focusing on deep, intentional work. I'll be checking my emails at 12 and 5, Monday through Friday. I'll respond. And if you need me, if it's an emergency, and then you gave a number where it can be. I just thought, man, that's the way it was worded and everything else. It's like, I'm super busy, but I answer emails at this time and this time. So I just thought that was such a professional email, just so you know. I really,
thank you.
I meant to say that during the show, but I'm like, man, this girl's definitely intentional. It's just awesome. It's really good. So you enjoyed being a grandma. I enjoyed having you on my show. Thank you for spending an hour with me. And we'll see what other impact we can do with this little podcast, and send it out to the to your circle and my circle, and Jose will share it on the CLA. Sound good?
Awesome, Mark. Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me on. It's a great conversation. That's the biggest piece when you're doing the Beyond the podcast, is teaching people how to have the deep conversations, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
that's
a big piece of it. So, God bless you as you're going through that. And let me know however I can help. I'm happy to support you in growing that podcast as well. So.
All right, you got it, Ms. Laura. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Real Talk with Mark Cox. Real life, real topics, real conversation. We're passionate about motivation, fitness, self-defense, weight loss, and coming at it from a real angle. We hope you've gotten some useful and practical information from this show. And we hope you had fun. We know we did. We'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hit us up on Instagram and Facebook at MarkCox100. Make sure to subscribe and review. And tell a friend or two about the show. For more, hit up the website at markcox.com. Till next time.